My friend Takeshi swears he'll never sing karaoke again after what happened in Shibuya last. He was celebrating his promotion with co-workers at their usual spot, Big Echo, on Center Guy. The group had booked a large room for 4 hours. Everything seemed normal at first. The usual drinking, laughing, terrible singing. But around midnight, people started leaving one by one. Soon, only Takeshi and his colleague Yamada remained. They decided to sing a few more songs before calling it a night. Takeshi selected an old ballad, Tsugaru Kaikyo Fuyugeshi. As the instrumental began, Yamada excused himself to use the restroom. Takeshi started singing alone in the dimly lit room. But during the chorus, he heard something impossible. A third voice, it was singing harmony, perfectly in tune but with a hollow, distant quality. Takeshi stopped singing immediately. The harmony continued for 3 more beats, then silent. He looked around the empty room, heart pounding. The microphone in his hand felt ice cold. He checked the door, still locked from the inside. Maybe he imagined it, stress from work, too much alcohol. He decided to try one more song. This time, he chose something modern, an AKB48 hit. As soon as he began the first verse, the voice came back. This time, it wasn't just harmony. It was singing the lead while he was still singing the lead. 2 identical voices, perfectly synchronous. Takeshi's blood ran cold as he realized the voice sounded exactly like his own. But it was coming from the empty microphone on the table, the one Yamada had been using. He dropped his microphone and backed toward the door. But the singing continued, both voices now coming from nowhere and everywhere. The room's temperature plummeted. The disco lights flickered erratically. And in the corner of his eye, Takeshi swore he saw a figure, sitting in the far corner holding an invisible microphone. When Yamada returned 5 minutes later, he found Takeshi huddled by the door, white as a sheet, refusing to explain what happened. They left immediately, but not before Takeshi noticed something on the receipt. The room they'd been in was listed as being occupied by 3 people. The staff insists their system never makes mistakes. But who was the third singer? A university student named May discovered that some songs should never be sung after 3 a.m. She was pulling an all-nighter studying for exams when her favorite karaoke chain sent a promotional email. Late night discount, 90% off single rooms after midnight. Stressed and needing a break, May decided to treat herself. The karaoke parlor in Ikebukuro was nearly empty at 3:30 a.m. The teenage staff member looked half asleep as he led her to room 7, a small windowless box with red velvet walls and a single spotlight. May ordered some coffee and started browsing the song catalog. She noticed something odd. There was a section she'd never seen before. Midnight Special, songs only available after 3 a.m. Curious, she scrolled through the mysterious playlist. Most were old Encore songs from the 1970s, artists she'd never heard of. But one title caught her attention, a song that never ended. No artist listed, no duration. Something about it intrigued her. Maybe it was the perfect stress reliever. She selected the song and waited for the music to start. The instrumental was hauntingly beautiful, a melancholy piano melody. The lyrics appeared on screen in archaic Japanese characters. May began to sing and immediately felt different. Her voice sounded richer, more powerful than ever before. The song was about longing, about being trapped between worlds. As she sang, the room seemed to expand around her. The walls faded into darkness, leaving only the spotlight and the screen. When the first verse ended, May expected the song to continue to the chorus. Instead, it looped back to the beginning. The same verse, the same melody, but now she couldn't stop singing. Her voice continued automatically, as if controlled by something else. She tried to put down the microphone, but her hand wouldn't obey. The verse looped again and again and again. Each repetition made her voice stronger, but also less her own. In the darkness beyond the spotlight, May began to see shapes. Other singers, all holding microphones, all singing the same verse. Their faces were pale, their eyes empty, but their voices were beautiful. May realized with growing horror that she was becoming one of them. The song that never ends, because the singers could never leave. Fighting against the compulsion, she used every ounce of willpower to reach for the remote. Her finger barely managed to hit the stop button. The music cut off abruptly, and May collapsed to the floor. When she looked up, The room was normal again, but her throat felt raw, as if she'd been singing for hours. The clock on the wall showed 6:47 a.m. She'd been in the room for over 3 hours, singing the same verse. When May checked the song catalog later, Midnight Specials was gone. But sometimes, late at night, she still hears that melody playing in her head. The new karaoke box in Harajuku had a room that wasn't supposed to exist. My coworker Hiroshi was working the night shift when he first noticed the discrepancy. The building had 12 karaoke rooms, numbered 1 through 12, but the computer system kept showing bookings for room 13. At first, Hiroshi thought it was a system glitch. He'd marked the bookings as errors and delete, but every night, new reservations would appear for the non-existent room. Always the same time slot, 2 to 4 a.m. Always paid in full, but no credit card information attached. The customer name field was always blank. Hiroshi mentioned it to his manager, but she just shrugged it off. Probably some bug in the booking software. Ignore. But Hiroshi was curious by nature, and the mystery bothered him. One slow Tuesday night, he decided to investigate. At exactly 2 a.m., he walked down the hallway, checking each room. Rooms 1 through 6 were on the left side, all empty and dark. Rooms 7 through 12 were on the right side, also vacant. But as he reached the end of the hallway, he stopped. There was a door where there shouldn't be one. Room 13, the number was there, clear as day, mounted on the door in the same font as all the others. But Hiroshi had walked this hallway hundreds of times. That door had never been there before. A soft light glowed from beneath the door, and he could hear singing. A woman's voice, performing what sounded like an old folk song. Her voice was beautiful, but melancholic in a way that made his chest tight. Hiroshi pressed his ear to the door. The singing was clearer now, but the words were in a dialect he didn't recognize. Something about waiting, about promises that couldn't be kept. Against his better judgment, Hiroshi tried the door handle. It opened easily. The room inside was identical to the other, except for the cold. The temperature was at least 20 degrees lower than the hallway. And sitting alone at the karaoke table was a woman in a white kimono. Her long black hair covered her face as she sang into the microphone. The karaoke screen showed no song title, no lyrics, just stats. Hiroshi cleared his throat. "Excuse me, miss." The singing stopped abruptly. Slowly, the woman turned toward him. Where her face should have been, there was nothing. Just smooth, pale skin from her hairline to her neck. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, yet somehow she was still humming. Hiroshi stumbled backward and slammed the door. He ran back to the front desk and didn't leave his post until morning. When he returned the next night, room 13 was gone. But the bookings in the computer, they continue to this day. And sometimes, late at night, customers complain about hearing crying from a room that doesn't exist. Kenji should have realized something was wrong when his duet partner never showed up on the security cam. He was a regular at the 24-hour karaoke place near Shinjuku Station. 3 times a week, always alone, always the same room if available. Room 8 had the best sound system and a view of the city light. That Thursday night in December started like any other. Kenji had just finished his favorite power ballad when someone knocked on the door. He thought it was staff bringing his order, but when he opened it, no one was there. Just the empty hallway, dimly lit by flickering fluorescent light. Kenji shrugged and closed the door, returning to his song select. 5 minutes later, another knock. This time, when he opened the door, a young woman was standing. She looked about 25, dressed in a simple white blouse and dark skirt. Pretty, but with an old-fashioned style that seemed out of place. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said with a soft smile, "but I heard you singing and you have a wonderful voice." Kenji was flattered and a little lonely. He'd just gone through a difficult break. Would you mind if I joined you for a song or two?" she asked. Something about her seemed genuinely sweet, so Kenji invited her in. She introduced herself as Yuki, like the snow. They started with a popular duet, and Kenji was amazed by her voice. It was crystal clear, perfectly pitched, with an emotional depth that gave him chill. They sang for 2 hours straight, oldies, pop songs, even some rock ballads. Yuki knew every song perfectly, never needed to read the lyrics. As they sang together, Kenji felt a connection he hadn't experienced in years. but he began to notice odd things about his new duet partner. She never drank anything despite the warm room. Her skin looked pale, almost translucent under the disco light, and when she moved, there was no reflection in the mirror behind her. During a slow song, Kenji reached out to touch her hand. It was ice cold and seemed to pass right through his fingers. Yuki noticed his shocked expression and smiled sadly. "I died in this building 30 years ago," he whispered between verses. "I was performing at a concert in the venue that used to be here. There was a fire. I never got to finish my last song." Kenji's throat went dry, but somehow he kept singing along. "I've been waiting for someone with a voice like yours, Yuki. Someone who could help me finish what I started." As the song ended, Yuki began to fade, becoming more and more transparent. "Thank you, Kenji. I can rest now." She vanished completely, leaving only the faint scent of smoke in the air. Kenji sat alone in the suddenly quiet room, heart racing. Later, the staff told him the security cameras had shown him singing alone all night. But his voice recording from that evening, it contained perfect harmonies for every song. Harmonies sung by a voice that officially didn't exist. The cleaning lady at KaraokeCon discovered that some customers never really leave. Mrs. Tanaka had been working the night shift for 15 years. She'd seen everything: drunk salarymen, crying teenagers, even marriage proposals. But nothing prepared her for what she found that cold February morning. She arrived at 5 a.m. as usual, expecting the building to be empty. The last customers had left at 3 a.m. according to the logbook. But as she entered the building, she could hear singing, a man's voice echoing from somewhere on the third floor. Mrs. Tanaka sighed, probably another customer who'd fallen asleep and been forgotten. It happened more often than the management liked to admit. She took the elevator to the third floor and followed the sound. It was coming from room 314, one of the premium suites. She knocked on the door. "Excuse me, sir, we're closed now." The singing stopped immediately. Mrs. Tanaka waited for a response, but heard only silence. She knocked again, louder this time. Still no answer. Using her master key, she unlocked the door and peered inside. The room appeared empty, but the karaoke system was still running. On the screen was a song she didn't recognize, something called "Reunion at Midnight." Mrs. Tanaka stepped inside to turn off the machine. The room was ice cold, much colder than the hallway. As she reached for the remote control, she noticed something on the table. A business card, yellowed with 8. It belonged to someone named Sato Hiroshi. The company listed had closed down 20 years ago. Behind her, the singing started again. Mrs. Tanaka spun around, but the room was still empty. The voice was coming from the speaker, a melancholy ballad about lost love. But there was no one holding the microphone. On the karaoke screen, the lyrics were highlighting automatically, as if someone invisible was singing along. Mrs. Tanaka backed toward the door, but it slammed shut behind her. The room's temperature dropped even further. And then she saw him, a faint outline sitting at the karaoke table, translucent, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. A middle-aged man in a rumpled business suit, holding a spectral microphone. He looked directly at her and nodded politely, never stopping his song. Mrs. Tanaka tried the door handle. It wouldn't turn. She was trapped with the ghostly salaryman and his endless karaoke session. The song seemed to go on forever, verse after verse, about loneliness and regret. Finally, after what felt like hours, the man finished his ballad. He bowed to Mrs. Tanaka as if she'd been his audience. Then he faded away completely, and the door clicked open. Later, Mrs. Tanaka researched the name on the business card. Sato Hiroshi had died of a heart attack in that very room 15 years ago. He'd been singing alone, working late as always, and his heart just gave out during his favorite song. The staff found him the next morning, microphone still in his hand. Mrs. Tanaka still cleans that building, but she always skips room 314 now, because every morning at 5 a.m., she can still hear Sato-san rehearsing for a performance that will never end.